wasting time. Let's go to someone we love. He's one of the premier NBA voices and NBA journalists on the planet. You read his work in The Athletic. He's the one. He's the only Anthony Slater. What's up, Anthony?
What's up? How are you guys enjoying the afternoon life?
Hey, the time slot, great.
Great question.
The balancing 800 other things, it's been kind of a challenge, but it's like also we're here having fun talking.
Yeah.
So you can't complain too much, right?
No, it's fun. It's just, when you just try and figure out some other things, it's like, whoa, this was a lot more than I thought. But at the same time, we're talking sports and we have great people like you joining us. So thanks.
And like you do a lot of things. I could not believe last week, it was like a week and a half ago. I was talking to you before a game. You're mentioning you're doing a piece on Harrison Barnes. I'm like, oh, cool. I'll look forward to reading that in a few weeks. Maybe next week.
Yeah.
I'm going to bed at 1 o'clock in the morning. The piece is out. I'm like, this guy's insane. He's doing podcasting, doing breakdowns on The Athletic. I'm like, how do you do it?
I sleep in the afternoons, basically, right? I mean, that's the NBA lifestyle. But no, I mean, I like to, if I get something fresh, I like to get it out fresh because sometimes I feel like conversations or reporting. I mean, you guys know how quick the league can move. What is the NBA going to look like 2 weeks from now compared to today, Especially these 2 weeks, right?
Dude, I don't know. We talked to Sam Amick last week, and he goes, I expect some fireworks the week of the trade deadline. As we inch closer and closer, do you anticipate that it's going to be maybe bigger than we think? Is this the calm before the storm?
I mean, it depends on what you describe as fireworks, like NBA junkies view like the Rui Hachimura trade, like, whoa, what a blockbuster. And then, you maybe take a longer approach of view to it. And you're like, that's like the Lakers 7th or 8th man for some second round picks. There'll be trades. Like I bet there's double digit trades on the day.
I'll take it.
But again, I covered the Warriors a couple of years ago and it was like they traded Marquise Chris to San Antonio into cap space and Brad Wanamaker into cap space just to clear roster spots. And it was like, wow, 2 Warriors trades at the deadline. But it was like, basically just wave their 14th and 15th men.
And speaking of possible Warriors trades, we're seeing some rumblings out there now with Matisse Thybulle. I feel like his name's being thrown out with a lot of teams right now. But
the Kings,
with the Kings too. So now we were just discussing, with the rumbling of the Warriors, what would they need to do for it? And then with the Kings, what would they need to do for Matisse Thybulle? And are any of these rumors actually valid?
Yeah, I think particularly with the Kings, I mean, it's pretty obvious what they need, right? Just like some defensive backbone. I would lean more like rim protector, like Nerlens Noel type that they could use more just for more optionality. Throw a guy out there that can block a shot at the rim. But yeah, wing defense, to me, you could argue KZ Okpala is already Matisse Thybulle. Matisse Thybulle is a little more of an
fired by Anthony.
Wait, I'm actually shocked that you're saying that.
He's been on the all defensive team twice.
Put some respect on that resume,
some people would say that's overvalued. He's having trouble cracking Doc Rivers' rotation.
Yeah. That is the biggest point you can make is like this guy was playing 25 minutes a night and he's been on the all defensive team, yet a Sixers team who's trying to win a championship is playing him 12 minutes a night.
Yeah, you're not trying to grab Alex Caruso from a Bulls team right now that's crumbling. You're trying to grab they want maybe they're thinking Terrence Davis would be more of a help to a rotation right now. Get out there, shoot it a little bit, have some nights. It's the one thing is maybe in a certain playoff series in a certain matchup. Let's say you get Memphis in round 1, you throw Thybulle on Ja Morant for stretches and that helps. It just gives you an extra Ja Morant defender. But at the same time, what also happens in the playoffs is guys who cannot shoot and cannot score and cannot put the ball on the floor get played off the floor. So it's kind of a little bit of a catch-22. I mean, it's the story of Matisse Thybulle's career to this point. It's why he has not caught on in Philly.
Yeah, no, it's all fair, and I could see why there'd be interest there. They're clearly searching for something at that for perimeter defense, maybe a rim protector. You keep hearing Plumlee's name brought up too. I don't know, man. It feels like a weird trade deadline from the standpoint that you have so many teams that are kind of in the thick of things, especially in the Western Conference, that you have so many buyers. Some of these teams are going, oh, you want Plumlee? You better give up multiple picks. And I don't know that teams want to do that, give up so much to acquire a talent like him.
That's why trades don't happen like the week before, right? Because that is the asking price a week out. You're seeing all these reports like they'd be willing to part with their 9th man for a first-round pick and a good young player or something like that. By the deadline, it is, the Wizards struck early, I think, because they were realistic about Rui Hachimura's actual value. And we're like, look, at the end of the day, if we're going to get something done, it is going to be for a few second-round picks. So that, I could imagine Plumlee should be cheap. Considering where Charlotte is and just, who he is. He's a backup center. The Kings have plenty of backup centers. He would be the best defender among them. If he's coming in and he's taking Rashawn Holmes minutes, that's, I don't know. What would y'all think about that?
I think it makes some sense because they have not found anything at that spot. Although I got to be honest, I know it maybe doesn't work all the time, but I liked what I saw from Trey Lyles at the go small ball 5 when you have to. And it gives you a different look. He could shoot it. He could put it on the floor a little bit.
And you say take away from Rashawn Holmes minutes. There's not, there's just not enough being played by him anyway. Like it's like Coach Mike Brown is, now he was going for Chimezie Metu first, and now he's relying a little bit more on Trey Lyles last game, showing that trust. And now I'm hoping after showing some of that trust toward Trey Lyles, like that's the direction he goes in. But at the same time, he was talking about it post game, and he was still talking about Chimezie Metu really being there before Trey Lyles. So I'm not sure what direction they really want to go in. And we know that's one of the positions that they need to fix. But what about also John Collins? That's a name that we keep hearing. We've heard connected with the Kings over the years, but we've heard his name connected with almost every single team in the NBA, right? And you now look at today, the Hawks are saying, oh no, we want to see if we got a future with him. We're good. We're not good. Is that just their way of trying to manipulate the situation?
The one thing about the Hawks is, they've threatened in the past, hey, we'll keep him, and they always do keep him. So they might just keep him. He might just play out his entire contract on the trade block. As far as a fit in Sacramento, the Kings looked into it in the offseason, and I just think his fit with Sabonis just isn't there, right? Especially for the price tag. We're talking about, that's a hefty chunk of your salary cap that to me, he profiles more as like, maybe like a Utah or like a team that is rearranging the bigger deck chairs right now. The Kings are more fringe, some of the fringe rotation pieces. I think the Kings made a really smart move in the offseason saying, I don't know about John Collins. How about Kevin Huerter? That was the guy that fit what they wanted to do. So
I'm curious to get your perspective on Keegan Murray's development. I was just looking at his month of January. The shooting has been really strong, but I think the Kings have to be excited that he's kind of taken on that challenge of improving the rebounding in his last 7 games. He's averaging over 8 rebounds a game. When you've had a chance to see Keegan Murray, what's jumped out to you maybe about his development this season?
Well, it's just like an elite shooter. And like anytime he's lining up an open or even semi-open 3, you're like, oh, that's good offense must have produced that, because that's a high quality, high efficient shot, even if he's missing. What did he just shoot? 49% from 3 in January?
Yeah, it was outrageous.
So, that is maybe the most important skill in the modern NBA. And like, you can already check that box, halfway through his rookie year. And when you talk to people around the league who see him for the first time, the second time, they're all impressed with how big he is, like just tall, lanky as a rookie. Like, man, this guy's already like a legit, size of a modern power forward. And I like the way he's fit with Harrison Barnes. That was a question I kind of had coming into the season, was like, can they make sense in lineups together? Well, they're starting together in the Kings' best lineup. I have been following like Mike Brown challenging him a little bit. I think, what was that, like early January? So he's playing a little bit more rugged. The marathon of an NBA season can catch up to rookies, and, the dog days hit and suddenly they're just floating out there, and so I'm not saying he's past that. You might see another couple weeks where the energy level's not there. And I think he a little bit reminds me of like, I cover Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins sometimes has weeks at a time where it's just like he can be kind of floating. Like, sure, he gets an open 3, he might hit it, but there are 5 trips up and down the court where you're like, he's kind of just doing cardio right now. So there's a little bit of that with Keegan, but overall, you got to be really encouraged by his season.
Yeah, I know Kings fans are really encouraged. I know we are as well. Just like you watch his game and his ability to play at this level his rookie year, and I look at the impact he's making as a rookie, and I think right now you look at the national narrative around possible rookies of the year, and it's going straight to Paolo Banchero. Do you think, I mean, if Keegan was to keep this up, his name's got to be right there, right?
It'll be in it. With Paulo, I actually thought Benedict Mathurin was like the dark horse early in the season. Oof. He's cooled some. The Pacers, what are they? 1-10. Kings are about to see them. I like the rest of this Kings road trip for them too. By the way, they need to pile up some wins.
That's what I said too, Anthony. Honestly, like it sounds like Halliburton might come back tonight against the Lakers. So I don't know if he's going to play on the second night of a back-to-back against the Kings, but
I think he's going to want to. I'll say that.
Yes.
Yeah, you would think he would want to, and yeah, it's Sabonis' first game playing against the Pacers in Indiana, so there's going to be a lot of emotions there. But yeah, this road trip, I'm looking at going, they should win tonight. And I'm not saying they're going to, but you look at how this road trip sets up. You could make the case that they should win the rest of these games. The Pacers team, even with Halliburton, is not a great team. The Pelicans are beyond banged up right now, and then you get Houston twice.
I'd say 3-2 is like the floor of what you should expect. Like 3-2 would be like, all right, 4-1, I would say should at least be the goal. And then, obviously, like it's sitting out there for 5-0, but that's just like very difficult.
Very difficult. Did you not hear our guy Anthony Slater say very difficult? Like Deuce is over here. I think it's hilarious. Tell me if you kind of feel this too from Kings fans. Slater, you're around now so much more, and you get the vibe that the expectations are obviously higher with the Kings, but this road trip, they left, and everyone's like, they got to come home 5-2, or it's a bust, or it's a bad road trip. And I'm talking over here like 4-3. I'm happy with 4-3. Like it's the NBA. It's still difficult.
Yes. I mean, I'm in the middle of one right now, and it gets to you a little bit. And these home arenas, a lot of these bad teams, where do they get most of their wins? They get them at home. They get wiped out when they go on the road, but let me look at what's Houston. I got the standings up right now. Houston's probably a bad example. Yeah, they're 7-17 at home. The Indiana Pacers 16-10 at home, 8-18 on the road. See? Much harder to beat there. That's obviously an example. The Spurs very beatable. The Pelicans are interesting. They're obviously tumbling right now. 9 in a row they've lost, but did you watch their Denver game last night?
I did not.
No.
It was on TNT. Right? They held with a fully healthy Denver team in Denver. Ingram looked better than he's looked recently. I think of the 5 left on this road trip, that's the one that's going to be the most difficult to get.
I agree with that.
Okay.
I agree with that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. It's not going to be easy, but either way, the Kings are in a position potentially, even if they lose, like they come back to Sacramento 10 games above 500, and that's pretty significant for this group. I'm curious for you. I know we talked before the season about expectations. I think most of us were like, play-in team, like they should be pretty competitive. And I know you like the Fox Sabonis dynamic beforehand. Now that we're approaching 50 games into the season for the Kings, where has this group surprised you most?
Offensively, right? I mean, they're elite in like an era of like absurdity from an offensive number standpoint. They are not, what are they sitting at today? I know they've been kind of flip-flopping like 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I think they're number 1 still.
Oh,
I mean, just that they're in that conversation is the big stunner. And I thought, Fox and Sabonis has a chance to work as a pick and roll pairing. Oh, I like some of the shooters that they've surrounded them with. That could be like the 8th best offense. Like I would have been feeling like I was being overly optimistic, saying like, it could be 7th, 8th best offense in the league. They're the top offense in the league. So.
It's bizarre, to be sitting here today and actually seeing that. But at the same time, you look too, the Sacramento Kings might have 2 All-Stars. What are you feeling about their All-Star chances coming up tomorrow?
I think Sabonis should be a lock. I was among the people that put him as a starter just because he was kind of.
Let's give it up for Anthony. Okay. He's not a casual. He watches the game. He understands the impact.
Facts.
So I think he should be a lock, and I would expect him to get in. Fox is more fringe. I do wonder if like a Devin Booker gets in, if a Zion gets in, then you could just flip Fox maybe on the backside as like an injury replacement. Yeah. Sometimes the league does that. So technically, 14 people are all-stars. but yeah, Fox is sitting probably in that alternates range, battling maybe with like Lillard, and I think Shea's more sure to get in than Fox, just considering what Shea has done lately and really what the Thunder have done lately.
That's fair.
The thing with Booker is I have not seen him play a game in how long? Like, he has not played in 2023. Like, I understand he's an all-star level player, and the Suns have dropped, without him.
Yeah.
I just sorry, man, you don't make the team this year.
Are you one of those people, Slater, when it comes to like, hey, the amount of games you're playing?
Yeah, I do think games played matters, but also I don't know. Some people are of the argument like, look, we're best players. This is representative of the era that these players went in, and like Kevin Durant, for example. Okay, he's been out for a little bit. Well, this season, when we read about this season and a decade from now, it shouldn't say Kevin Durant wasn't an all-star. It shouldn't say Devin Booker wasn't an all-star. But look, if you're out of the MVP race if you miss a certain amount of games. So, I mean, it's why Sabonis, I voted him as a starter. Like, if you said, is Domantas Sabonis one of the 5 best players in the Western Conference? Probably say no. But has he been one of the 5 most important and 5 most deserving over this sample size? A 49-game sample size, which, by the way, if you care about team winning, like everyone so many teams in the West are disappointing. And his is exceeding expectations. So that's why I voted him in. So I would be more of the whatever the sample is in front of you, you should vote by.
I'm curious to get your perspective, and I've said I'm curious 7 times.
I'm so glad you noticed that. I was going to tell you that later.
Okay.
I'm a very curious guy, Anthony. I'm curious.
That's why we call you the cat.
Yes. De'Aaron Fox this season, it seems like he's taken a step. The efficiency's improved. 3-point shooting still right around 33%. Not great. What's jumped out to you about his game this season?
I just think like the maturity of it, the way he's absorbed the coaching of Mike Brown. I think that set the tone like right away, that he was like made it pretty clear. Like, I'm all in on this coaching hire. I'm all in on this idea that like we must defend to win. Not that they're defending at some elite level, but he's at least taken the Mike Brown like scoldings after, quick timeouts. Fine. Right. He's never complaining about it. He's gone the opposite way. He's embraced it. So I think that has impressed me. And then fourth quarter scoring, there's been plenty of games where it can go either way, and he's just kind of grabbed the game. And that's how you become 28 and 21 instead of 21 and 28, essentially. So just he might be, the best closer in the league so far if you just look at the first half of the season.
You obviously covered Mike Brown pretty close with the Warriors. You're seeing here as a head coach, he's been doing a great job bringing the best out of so many different guys, De'Aaron Fox being one of them, the rookie Keegan Murray. We were talking about that earlier. Something that we've noticed this season with the Kings is some of his rotations when, let's say, Rashawn Holmes isn't in the rotation, but then Domas doesn't play or something, and he has to play a game, does really well. You don't see him the next game. It's really interesting to see Mike Brown's tactics as a head coach. I'm curious if you ever noticed any of that, whether it's here as a head coach in Sacramento or even with just the times that you spoke with him in Golden State.
Yeah, well, I think he actually took a lot from Steve Kerr. And one of those things is like Steve Kerr, who was a career, fringe rotation piece. He was more secure at his Bulls days, but a lot of his career was a 10th man, an 11th man, a 12th man. Always believed like it's, and he said Steve got this from Phil Jackson, but it's like throw those guys in once in a while, because they need to feel like they're part of the team. They need to just get their juices flowing a little bit. It keeps them more engaged in the season. So I think you're probably seeing a little bit of that with Mike. One thing that Steve, sometimes he didn't want to disrupt his bench rotation. So if a starter was out, he would throw somebody from more kind of like the back end of the rotation in as like the spot starter. I think you've seen that with Okpala.
We have.
Yeah, that's a big thing. He'd always do it with like Damian Lee. Like Damian Lee would almost not be in the rotation, and then you're like, oh, Damian Lee's starting tonight, because
we saw that with Terrence Davis.
Yeah, Terrence Davis, a great example of that, where like, oh, he's starting because Monk's out, and it's like, oh, okay, or not, or Herter was out, or whatever.
Yeah, and instead of putting Monk in the starting lineup, he's like, I don't want to mess with my second unit. Okay.
Yeah, so it's not wanting to disrupt, you know, the flow of the second unit, the sub patterns, but also like, you know, Terrence Davis is kind of a rhythm player at times. Like Terrence Davis, you probably shouldn't just leave him, you know, gathering cobwebs for 3 weeks, because there is going to be a time you need him out there, really need him, and you need him to get hot, and he's going to be like, I can't be hot. I haven't played a basketball game in 3.5 weeks. So there's some of that, I think.
All right, we're up against. I have one more for you. This is the one thing about radio. We have to actually take breaks.
Ugh.
If you had a prediction, I'm going to ask you a prediction. I don't know if you do predictions or not. Some people
Sure.
don't. Do you think the Kings get in the top 6? Like at the end of the season, they are in the top 6.
Yeah, I think so, because like I don't like the West.
Yeah.
Like I know it's people are like, you know, these, you know, Warriors could be rising soon, and I do think the Warriors are about to hit somewhat of a nice patch, but it's like to me this is more indicative of not like how dangerous the West could be. It's just like I think a lot of these teams are gonna sit in that range, you know, be around 500. Kings could be one of them. Kings could hit a rough patch. They need to stay healthy, particularly their 2 best players need to not miss extended time at all. If you know, they can miss games here and there, but at this point, I don't know why you wouldn't say yes if you were just look. I predict based on like, I guess, what's the word I'm thinking of? Just like probabilities, and
Yeah.
they've been the 3rd, 4th best team in the West, you'd say, to this point. So I'm not saying it's a sure thing. They are close enough to 7, close enough to 8, 9, 10, really, to fall down if they hit a slump. But I don't know why I would predict some of the teams under them to do. I mean, I'm not predicting some Pelicans surge right now or a Portland surge or anything like that.
That'd be so wild if that happened.
I know.
Well, Anthony, thanks so much for hanging out with us, man. Hopefully we see you soon.
Yep. Yeah. I think I'll be out there for one of those Dallas games.
Awesome.
Sweet.
Yes.
We'll see you then, Slater.
Yep.
That's the one and only Anthony Slater from The Athletic. I love his work over there. So check it out
So
on The
good.
Athletic. Coming up next, we'll talk more about